Final Fantasy XIII came out in 2010. I beat it in 2021, 11 years later, logging about 35 hours into it. Let's talk about that. In this game, you follow Lightning and her gang of heroes attempting to defy their fate and save the world of Cocoon. Final Fantasy XIII is probably one of my favorite games to date. To me, the music is amazing, yet sometimes it can be repetitive. There are some songs that I could see myself listening to for hours, like this one. And then some I don't ever really want to hear again, like this one. Putting something like 30 plus hours into it, I never really got tired of too much of the music. Everything fits so well into the world of 13. When it comes to the characters, some of them were really well made, while some could have been better. Lightning was created in order to replace Final Fantasy VII's Cloud. For me, her character design was pretty good and interesting, but her personality slightly ruined it for me. She came across more as an edgy character than anything. Even with her character development, that kinda stays with you for the entire game, if not the entire trilogy. Hope had good character development in Final Fantasy XIII. His character was not the best when you first met him though. It's pretty much, you killed my mom, I hate you, for maybe half the game. Later on, he grows past it, using that anger not towards Snow, but towards the entirety of the fal'Cie. Snow had the same problem as Hope. Instead of anger, he expressed more sorrowness, but it followed up with ambition to get Sarah back. He butts heads with Lightning quite a bit, and it shows a bit more of his cool and cocky personality. Vanille is a bit of a weird character to me. At points, she seems like she's a narrator for the entirety of Final Fantasy XIII, and at other points, she seems more of a ditzy and clueless character that has no idea what's happening around her. Like the other characters, she starts to grow in the later half of the game, but Fang seems like her counterpart. Where she is weak in the game, Fang seems to overcome that. She's like Lightning in a sense, but lacks the whole edge factor that she has. Probably one of the best characters in this game, Saz was just thrown into the whole mess. He was only here to save his son who had already completed his focus. He seemed like he never wanted any part of the action that him or his party was going through. One of the only problems I have with this character is the fact that whenever a battle would happen, he would try to run away from it before having to face it head on. Something I didn't like about the game was how linear the pathing seemed. I understand that there's a story to follow and a story to tell, but following only one set for what seemed to be almost the entire game isn't really too fun. Looking at the minimap, there was always one set path you had to take. A second path to the same place if you were lucky. The whole world doesn't really open up until late game, and even then, there's not really too much to do there. You can do some side quests throughout the area, but really does not leave anything for just pure exploration. One of the biggest things I didn't like about Final Fantasy XIII was the final boss fight. I won't say too much about it, but it just seemed way too easy for what was leading up to it. There were some hard boss fights throughout the game that I actually enjoyed. Some I even had to turn down the difficulty just so I could keep progressing in the story. The overall design of the final boss was mediocre really, and the boss fight took me maybe 1 or 2 tries to finally beat. This game overall is a 10 out of 10 for me. The story was captivating enough for me to continue through the entire game, and even do some of the side quests. And I never do side quests. Final Fantasy XIII is worth playing, or at least throwing into that backlog of yours.